everybody. It is Laura Key. I am the Realty Goddess of Los Angeles, California, and I help to establish the community one house at a time. Welcome to Securing Your Legacy with my expert, Cedric Collins. Hi, hi, hi.
Hi, Laura.
How
Thank
are
you
you
once again.
today?
Excellent. Thank you once again for having me.
I love it. We have great information for everybody. So before we dig into everything, I want you to know if you are new to watching us, this is a series that we do. If you've missed any parts of our series, please make sure you go back to our social media pages, which will be given at the end of this broadcast. And feel free to watch anything that we've posted, share it, let people know, because the more educated you are, the better. And it's also going to protect your legacy as well. So today, Cedric and I, or I'm pretty going to be listening and taking notes, are going to talk about wills versus trusts. Yeah, there is a difference, and most people don't know that. So Cedric, kind of tell us why. What is the difference? What's going on with this?
Well, first of all, there's two different types of planning that we deal with mostly. We have will-based planning, and we have planning that's with the cornerstone of the estate plan being a revocable living trust. Now,
Mm,
a will is the most basic, fundamental. We all know and heard about wills. There's all kind of stories we've heard about wills. Wills have been around for a very, very long time, and so wills are still a very important part of the planning, but sometimes they leave a lot of holes and a lot of vulnerability in estate plans when you just focus on a plan that's based solely upon a will.
but
Now, a
they
will,
always make it so easy about wills, right? Like go to LegalZoom, go to get yours at Staples, and we don't want that. We want it to be solid.
exactly, a will can be as basic or as fundamental as, just a simple statement all in your own handwriting and signed by you as the testator. So it can be very simple till there's more complex wills that are out there. But just to focus on what some of the basics are, the basic differences between wills and living trust. Now, first of all, one of the things, there's three distinct things that I like to discuss when we talk about differences between a will and a living trust. Now, the first thing is when you base your planning on the traditional will, your family will likely still end up in court.
Oh,
Now, here
so
there's
that
an old
doesn't
saying.
necessarily mean you won't be in court.
Exactly. You most likely you will, especially if you're homeowners. And I know our audience here is they're primarily homeowners. So in the state of California, if you have real estate property that's over $50,000 at the time that we're recording this video, then most likely you're going to end up with some type of probate proceeding if you use will-based planning, because
Mm,
there's a legal process called probate, which we touched on in the last episode in the series. And part of that probate process is the proving of the will, where the court will
ah,
actually take a look to see if the will is actually valid under California law.
mm.
But so, not to get into the technicalities of what makes a will valid or not, but what are some of the deficiencies? One, the first one I mentioned here, your family will likely still end up in court because the court now has jurisdiction over the will because they have to, first of all, prove that it's valid. And
Yes.
then there's all actually an opportunity for the public to contest, for creditors to lay claims. It's a very public process. In
Mm.
fact, there's some famous celebrity wills that if you just curious to know, you can go to their local county where when the state that that person died, where the will was actually submitted, and you can actually for a small fee view a copy of that will.
Wow. So it's that public.
Absolutely. So
And
go
this
down to
is
the
how
probate court.
TMZ and all those people get that information.
Exactly, because wills are they're public documents. So if probate avoidance, if that's in the cards for you in the plans, then a will is certainly not the way to establish all of your planning. If you
Yeah.
base it all on will-based planning, where the primary piece to your estate plan is a will, and you own the home and other significant assets, you'll most likely end up in the court.
Mm. Okay. All right. That's interesting. So you got two pieces of puzzles, but they need to connect.
Absolutely, absolutely. So
Okay.
you have where there's a will, there's a probate. Now, the second thing that we want to take a look at here is
That's a new
oh,
phrase. Where there's a will, there's a
where there
probate.
will there's a probate. Um, and the second thing that we want to look at here is a will does not address incapacity issues. See,
Oh.
what if you don't die? See, a will speaks at death. But right now we're living in some troubling times, especially with the pandemic. There's a greater sense of urgency for healthcare and keeping yourself safe. What if you end up incapacitated, where you're unable to take care of your personal business needs, uh, unable to make healthcare decisions for yourself? Well, a will is insufficient because a will is only activated when you die.
Oh, see, I think that's where the disconnect comes for a lot of people. I mean, even myself, I'm just going to admit that I did not know that until recently, actually, until speaking with you.
Absolutely. It speaks at depth. So that leaves major vulnerability in your planning. If you have a mortgage that needs to get paid, who's going to step in your shoes and make that mortgage payment, for you on your behalf? You have the money sitting right there in your bank account. Only thing
Mhm.
you have for a plan is a will, which isn't even really valid now because you're alive.
Wow.
Now, if one of your close friends or relatives who you trust, if they had the proper documentation, and we're going to discuss that during this series, they'd be able to step into your shoes and either make healthcare decisions for you when you can't, and also protect your good credit by making your mortgage payment, making sure your kids, if you have children, are provided for because they have the right documentation to do that. And a will was not designed to do that. It was
Ah, see,
basically
there's two
designed to
different
wrap
things.
up your final affairs. So that's the
Wow.
second, we want to say, vulnerability that you'll encounter when using will based planning.
Mm,
And
mm.
so the third one that I want to address here, the biggest difference between planning with a will and versus a trust is that a will does not allow you the flexibility to be able to address things like lawsuits, creditor claims, bad spending habits.
Ooh.
See, here's the thing. Once you submit a will to the court and there's an executor who's appointed either by you or by the court, that's where they want to stop it. They want to make sure all the creditors are taken care of, maybe the rightful heirs get the property. But after that, the court wants to wash its hands of the situation and be done. So they're not going to hold assets in trust for let's say you have an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. Well, under the Uniform Transfer of the Minors Act, you can't devise property directly to your children without it going through a court process. So that's kind of
Mhm.
another vulnerability that's in there. If you left all that you have to your children, that will certainly you'll certainly wind up in court that way because of that Uniform Transfer to Minors Act. However, when you plan using a revocable living trust, you have so much more flexibility. For instance, you can hold assets in trust to certain ages and stages.
Mm.
Uh,
Ooh.
I was 18 once. If I received $500,000 from one of my relatives, I don't know what I would have done with that money,
I
right?
know, right? Immediately Lamborghini.
Exactly. Let's live it up. Let's champagne lifestyle, right? You're 18. You shouldn't be doing that at 18, but the college kids are going to be college kids, and so we know that's they're not ready in most cases to receive assets outright. Well, planning with the will, it limits you just to that. Where
Wow.
these assets are going to be out given to your kids outright at a certain age or stage versus a living trust. It's going to give you the flexibility to plan for certain life milestones, such as what happens when they graduate from college, what happens if they want to start a business, what happens if they get married and they need access to money and you're not here to give
Right.
that money.
Right.
Planning with a living trust allows a trustee, someone who you've trusted and appointed while you're alive, to step in your shoes and to kind of be the financier of your child's life at certain ages and stages, where with a will, that's not possible. Basically, the
Wow.
will is designed to wrap up your final affairs, and that's it. With the living trust gives you that flexibility for the long term.
That's a lot of information. And that answers a lot of questions for many who just think that the one piece is enough. And at right now we're going through the same thing, so everything is touching upon my heart, and I'm glad I have you as a major resource for this, because it can be very frustrating. Because not only that, what if your family member is having medical issues that you need to step in on to help get them the right kind of medical. So I definitely did not know and that you needed both pieces until, or otherwise you're just kind of swinging in the wind. So I'm so grateful for this information. I'm sure that it's helped someone else today. Definitely. So this is why I say, guys, share this out. Make sure that you share this with people. Y'all listen to Dave Ramsey, y'all listen to all those great financial people, but this is a part of that financial planning. This is securing your legacy. That is why we're here. And that includes home ownership. That includes your legal aspects. It includes everything. So you have to change your mind and thinking about these things in order to get them in the right perspective. So
Absolutely. And there's just so much that we just don't know.
I know.
Laura, there's so much information out there, and we know this is the way. I say your parents did it, your grandparents did it, but there's if you have access, we're living in the information age right now. So there's different alternative ways that you can plan to make sure your legacy is secured and not limited. Now, we don't want to disparage the will, because a will, we can discuss that in another episode, should be a part of your estate plan, but it shouldn't be the centerpiece unless your asset profile, we can discuss that later as well. Basically, what do your assets look like? When
Yeah.
we're sitting down with a wealth planning session with a family, we want to determine, hey, you know what? We don't want to throw the will out of the picture. Let's make sure the will is the proper instrument to pass down your assets, because it may not be. If you own a home and you want to avoid that court process and you want to have the flexibility to make sure that your assets that you've worked hard for are protected from creditors, divorce, and there's so many things that you can do with planning with a trust versus the very limited scope that a will cover, because it only speaks at death and doesn't handle the incapacity issues and the other subtle nuances that are important to protecting and securing your legacy.
Mm, that's some good stuff right there. So people can actually contact you, right, Cedric, and set
Absolutely.
up these meetings to help get them on the right path. So, guys, his information, Cedric's information, is all at the end, and he is just waiting for you to pick up the phone. Pick up the phone. A closed mouth never gets fed. You have to ask to get educated. So. I hope that you learned something very well today. Cedric, do you have any ending comments for us today?
That's it. Like Laura, just the second what Laura said here, you can contact us at info@legacy1law.com. Also, you can visit us on the web at www.legacy1law.com. I'd be more than happy to answer questions, set up a time to chat with you and your loved ones to figure out what's important and to help you take those critical first steps in getting all of this started.
That's amazing. So, guys, that's what we have for you today. Please share it out. Ask us both any questions that you have. My name is Lori Key, and this is my special co host, Cedric Collins. I help to establish the community one house at a time. I wish you nothing but love, light, and so many blessings. You just can't hold them all. You guys have a good one. Mwah! Sugar.